Okay, y'all. Let me tell you what happened to me. This is COVID. What is it? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Excuse me. Don't worry, I'm not sick. This is um, day 9 of our shut in. It would have been day 9 of 14, but I understand that we are going to be shut in for an additional 30 days until April 30th. Okay, listen, I'm for it. I am absolutely for it. Unfortunately, and fortunately, um, double-edged sword, I'm one of the essential service providers, so I'm going to be out there in the mix every day, regardless. But I'm glad that they've extended it an additional 30 days because we need that. We need to stop that curve. We need to flatten it out. We need to get rid of it. We need to eradicate it. And I believe that the only way to do that is by staying indoors. And, staying indoors is not just so that you don't get sick, it's so that you don't infect someone else. Because as we've learned, this virus, everyone does not react to the virus the same way. So I may come in contact with the virus and show no signs or symptoms and give it to someone else who shows no signs or symptoms and give it to their grandma and make them sick and possibly die. So it's beneficial for all of us to stay in the house, period, away from people, and help this virus get eradicated. Okay, so now I'm off my soapbox, but listen, let me tell you what happened to me today. So, social distancing, you need to stay 6 feet away from people, don't stay in crowds, whatever. So, my bank, um, I guess all banks are not having the lobbies open, so you have to go through the drive-through. So you go take care of your business through the ATM, if at all possible, and if not, you have to go to the, I guess, auto teller. So I thought I was gonna get to the bank early today. Supposed to be there. Well, I'm sorry. The bank opens at 9 a.m. Ah, I'm thinking, oh, I'll just get there a little bit early. I got there at 8:45. Why did I think 8:45 was early enough to be anywhere in that line? I got there at 8:45, which was 15 minutes early, and I was already at least number 10. Okay, no worries. 10 people in the line, it'll still go pretty fast. So the bank opened at 9, scheduled to open at 9, and at 10:30, I was finally at the actual auto teller. I was I wasn't upset because I mean we're all experiencing the same thing. So um so I made it up to the auto teller. Now what I did notice was the car before me had I don't know how many transactions, because sometimes when you get into a situation that is uncomfortable or you don't like or whatever, sometimes you kind of zone out. So I was just zoned out. I was like, it didn't matter how long it took. I knew I would eventually be seen and that it was going to happen. So but in the process of like zoning out and tuning in and zoning out, i noticed that um I heard the actual teller from the bank say, ma'am, how many more transactions do you have? I was like, dang, how long has and then I realized she had been there for so long. And then something else I realized, she was reaching her hand out of her car, touching the call button, touching the send button, touching the tube that you put the paperwork and the pens in. She was just touching everything with her naked hands. I was just like, oh, I was just like truly, truly grossed out. All right. So when I got up to the auto teller, I pulled out my 99% alcohol spray. I'm spraying the whole machine, metal parts that don't nobody touch. I'm spraying everything. I think I sprayed the camera by mistake. I have gloves on both hands. I pull the tube out that you gotta, do your business. I spray all sides, top and bottom of the tube, and then I, handle my transaction. Put my things in. Use my own ink pen. You can keep that funky pen that's in that tube, and attempted to process my transaction. I pushed the call, the send button, because guess what? It sprayed. Oh, and I told the teller, I said, that tube, it might be wet, but it's 99% alcohol, so you good. And the teller just started laughing. And so I'm sitting there waiting for him to process my transaction, and I noticed a figure to my left. Like, I'm sitting in my car, and I look, and there's a person right there, and I'm thinking, okay, what's the deal? Social distancing. And then, well, the reason why initially it didn't bother me or disturb me is because the line for the bank was super long. It wrapped around like a line at Six Flags, Cedar Point, Jug Lake, Kings Island, whatever. The car line wrapped around the parking lot within the bank. And so they had security guards outside to kind of police the people, so there was no car accidents and people can, you know, not block means of egress and whatnot. And so I just assumed that the person that was like literally in hands reach was one of those security guard people. I looked up and I noticed he had his ATM card and driver's license in his hand. And so then I'm like, okay, no. So that means you're not security. You're just a random Joe literally walking up on my car. So, so he was so close. It's like you cannot not say hello. So I was like, hi, how you doing? He was like, yeah, this line is so, I said, yeah, small talk, trying to be polite. He looked about 6 foot and 200 plus pounds. He was a big dude. And so I was just like, okay. And so then I rolled my window up. You know how you move your arm, but don't move your arm. You just moving your finger. I rolled the window up. I'm talking on the phone to a friend, and they're not paying any attention. Not really. I'm just like whatever. And then I started thinking, like, first of all, with the coronavirus and the social distancing, you shouldn't be that close to my car window. Like, I literally could reach my hand out and maybe touch your shoulder, arm, elbow, something. You were too close to me. So I rolled the window down a crack, like literally, like not even 2 inches. And I said, excuse me, I'm not trying to be funny or anything, but could you scoot back a little bit? Could you scoot back a little bit? And he said, he said, what? This ain't 6 feet? I was like, actually, it isn't. It actually, you are not 6 feet away. But mainly this is a banking transaction and you're just too close to my banking transaction. Can you scoot back a little bit? He was like, fuck out of here. I was like, uh, no, really, can you scoot back? Can you move away from my car? Can you give me some room? You know, he's like, man, he said, you closer in the grocery store line than I am to you now. I said, this is not a grocery store line. This is a bank line. You're supposed to be in a car, and you're supposed to be at least 6 feet from me if you're not in a car. So can you move? And he said, fuck out of here. He said, why don't you roll your window up? I was like in shock. why don't you roll your window up and fuck out of here? Like, I was shaking my head. I did roll my window up again with the arm movement. I rolled my window up and then I raised my hand like this and I laid on my horn. Ah! You know what laying on your horn is, right? So he was like, he was startled that I had done that. And so he might have, I promise you, he might have moved 2 inches back. But he was just looking at me like he wasn't going nowhere. So I laid on my horn some more. I think it was a second horn laying where I looked over to the bank teller window, and every teller, probably manager and all, was standing in the window. Like it was like 4 or 5 people in the window looking. Oh, I'm sorry, I failed to mention when I started laying on my horn, everybody in the parking lot started laying on their horns too. I was so I was touched. I was truly touched that you know people was coming to my aid or my assistance or whatever, but the security guard came, told him he needed to move back. He was too close to my transaction. He was too close regarding the coronavirus social distancing. He was upset that I had the nerve to request my space, my personal space. And so but again, it touched me that the other people, I'm telling you, it was at least 4 or 5 other cars that laid on their horn too. They blew their horn with me in solidarity because what made me laugh so hard after that was it was more like maybe they were saying, I don't know what he got, but I don't want it either. Somebody need to come get him. I don't know what he got. It's like seriously, it was crazy. I was a little hyped up because where they do that at? I mean, we've been in this quarantine land world for a minute now. This disease has been ravishing our world, not just our state, not our country, the nation. It's been ravaging the world. So I don't know what rock you were under that you thought it was okay to literally stand that close to someone. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. I want to know. I just want to tell you guys, please feel empowered. You know what I'm saying? Feel empowered if someone's invading your space. If someone's not paying attention to what we need to be going on during this time to keep us all safe, don't be afraid to step back. Don't be afraid to say, excuse me. Don't be afraid to say, no, thank you. And can you keep your distance? And if you can't make them move, you move yourself. You don't have to stay there. But I just wanted to share that with you guys today. It was funny. You know how, I don't know if you guys ever heard that term, funny effed up. It was funny and it was effed up at the same time. But that was my COVID-19 day. What did I say? 9? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. COVID-19 day 9. I had to share that with you guys. If you have any funny stories or, we got to keep each other encouraged. If you have any comments for me, any questions for me, leave them in the comments below. I love you guys, and you have a great, blessed day. Bye.